and welcome to the Passenger Seat Podcast, a podcast designed to fill your passenger seat with chat about classic cars, all recorded from my 1968 Morris Minor Peggy. I'm Becca, and today I'm going to be joined by Roz Wollen, who was one of the founders and owners of Gwenda's Garage back in the 80s, which we actually went and saw a musical of in October time, I think it was now, when that was being shown in Sheffield. And they did this big musical all about the history of it to try and raise awareness of the fact that there was this woman-owned, woman-run garage and the struggles that they faced, alongside lots of other stuff that was happening in the 1980s to women, and particularly within Sheffield. It was a fantastic musical and we had an amazing time. And I was able to get in touch with Roz because we are hoping with our stand at the NEC in a couple of weeks at the Resto show to raise some awareness of one of the projects she went on to do after her time at the garage, which is WEST, which is Women in Engineering, Science and Technologies, a charity that helps support women who are going into what are often considered non-traditional jobs for women. And it's a fantastic initiative that does lots of brilliant things for these women in supporting them get into trades and keeping them going when it can be quite tricky going through the courses and things like that. So I will leave the details of West down in the comments and things like that if you are interested in either supporting them with a donation or needing to get some support from them because you yourself are a woman who is in a non-traditional trade, in training and looking for some support. But without further ado, let's get Roz in, and in the back seat of a Morris Minor, a car that she's probably not been in for a while, but she did work on quite a bit back in the garage days, and hear a little bit more about her story. So, joined by Roz Wollen, who, if you remember my podcast that I did back in November about going to see Gwenda's Garage, you were one of the founders of Gwenda's Garage. But let's go back a little bit further than that. What got you into wanting to work on cars and things like that?
Well, I started to work on cars really through motorbikes because I had motorbikes and my friends did as well. And it was when my motorbike broke down and seized that I took it to a motorbike shop, and they said it's going to cost a lot of money to repair. So I thought, I haven't got it. And this guy I worked with said, I'll show you, we can do it together. And so we stripped the motorbike down, and from that, it was a 4-stroke, and from that I really kind of got the bug of how an engine worked.
Yeah. And
I found it fascinating. And so then I went on a TOPS course and learnt about cars.
so what was the TOPS course like? Because you were obviously going into this in an era where there wasn't a lot of women doing those sorts of courses.
So I went on a TOPS course. They were great government initiatives, and they were mainly men on it. And in fact, I was on a course in Sheffield, and the guy didn't really want me to be there at all. In fact, he put me through a very rigorous pre-testing 4 or 5 weeks, and said he was only taking me on because he knew he had to. And then I did 9 months there, but it really just kind of was showing me how to strip down engines, how to jack engines up. It wasn't really showing me the diagnostics of what happens when a car breaks down, but it gave me a really good basis. And after 9 months, I tried to get a job. I couldn't get a job. Nobody wanted to take on somebody. I was over 30 by now. I was in my early 30s. Nobody was really interested in taking on an older woman. There wasn't the same government subsidies for older people. And so I then went and worked with this crazy woman in Leeds, who'd got a little backstreet garage, and I volunteered with her, and she just paid. And then I also went on and did a bit of volunteering with a garage in London called Big Ends.
Yeah.
And then a few of us had done, 2 other women had done TOPS courses, again, who'd had a motorbike background. And we just thought, well, if we can't get jobs, let's just go for it. And at the time, Sheffield City Council had a scheme whereby they had some new factory outlets, small units for new businesses which had got no electricity in them, but they were saying you can have 6 months free rent if you put the electrics in.
Okay.
And do all the everything. So that was great. That was a good start. We had 6 months free rent to give us a good sort of
and if you're putting the electrics in yourself, you were putting them where you thought you'd need them for your particular business.
We didn't put the electrics in particularly ourselves because there were a few other women that were female electricians around at the time. We had to have 3-phase electricity because of the ramp that we put in. Had to have 3-phase, and so that has to run through conduit. So we had a plumber who did all the conduit, and then somebody else, an electrician, came in and put the wires
Amazing
through.
That you were able to find so many women in the trade and
I know,
give them work as well, especially.
So many. The thing is that the TOPS courses was actually had got some aspects of letting women get into the trades. So we were actually able to. There were women around that were doing training in trades, and some of those women are still around. Doing trade work. And then after that, there were more women's courses. Sadly, the women's courses have died. Yeah, and that's kind of what you're trying to help a bit with West. That's what we're trying to do with West, and at the moment we've got a very exciting initiative with West where we're trying to get 3 courses put on in Sheffield, 1 in engineering, 1 in computer science, and 1 in non-traditional trades for women. And we're hoping that the mayoral authority is going to back us to put those 3 courses on, which are going to be introductory courses to get women started.
Amazing.
Yeah.
So you got the electrics and stuff into the garage. How was that first 6 months?
The first 6 months was crazy because we'd all kind of, stripped engines down in our training and everything, but the diagnostics of it and knowing how to actually repair something to avoid another mishap was just like another whole world to
it's
us,
something
really.
That really comes with the experience of working on vehicles.
Absolutely. And we had some good neighbours, we had some we had contacts as well, and we just managed to kind of push along. We did a lot of MOT work. We'd been on various welding courses, so we're doing MOT welding, and and when we got stuck, we pushed it around the corner and got the AA out. But that changed.
Yeah.
After about 6 months.
Because that was an element of the fact that you had come straight from training courses.
Yeah.
Traditionally, if you've come from a training course, you're going into a garage where there's other people with experience that you're going to start learning more off of on the trade. But you were a group of people that had come straight from training courses and hadn't got that buffer.
No, absolutely. And as I said, we did it because we couldn't get jobs. We didn't want to set up a women's garage. We were forced to because we wanted to pursue what we've been doing for the last 9 months. But we wanted to, we really would have liked to have had more experience before we did it. But we cracked on.
And for those who don't necessarily know, where did the name Gwenda's Garage come from?
Gwenda's Garage came from, we were looking for a name and we kind of, oh God, how do we, what do we do? So at the time there was no Google. No ways of researching through Google, but we picked up at the library a book called the Guinness Book of Feminine Achievements.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, and we found in this book that Gwenda Hawkes had still got the what was the word?
Is it land speed or something?
Yeah, land speed for a Morgan at Brooklands.
Yes.
And she had still held that title. And so that was it. We just thought, okay, Gwenda sounds nice.
Yeah.
We'll do Gwenda's Garage.
Nice alliteration.
Yeah, and we had a great exchange with her actually, because there was this guy turned up one day in a Morgan at the front of the garage. And we went, oh God, there's a Morgan there. We knew what a Morgan looked like vaguely, And we said, oh God, look. And he came in and he said, oh, I know Gwenda Stewart. And we went, what? And he said, yeah, he said, she's in the Morgan Club or something. We went, oh God. He said, we know, and she lives in Greece now, and she's over 90.
Yeah.
So we went, wow. So we had a ride round in the Morgan, round the garage, and anyway, we said, can we write to her and tell her that, you know, we've
named the garage
after her. And he said, yeah, and he gave us her address. And in fact, in the scrapbook that I'll show you, we actually had a letter back from her. And then we had T-shirts, which was similar to the one that you've got on.
Yes.
And we sent her a T-shirt, and then we had another letter back saying, thank you so much for the T-shirt.
Oh, amazing.
And she was in her 90s then.
That's incredible, because there were so many women from Gwenda's era that did truly incredible things.
Sure.
Some that I've talked about on the podcast as well, in that 30s period before the war, where it was a case of they were allowed to do stuff that post-war a lot of women then struggled to be able to do. Yeah. And it was a case of, you guys then almost repeating that struggle, but in a different area in terms of mechanics rather than racing.
Racing, yeah. And in terms of like the women that were in steelworks in Sheffield during the war, making new armaments and things like that. You know. Yeah,
absolutely. A strong history of that in Sheffield, absolutely. Yeah. So how long did Gwenda's go on for?
I think that we went on for about 7 years, something like that. The thing was that at that time the European Union was giving money for women-only courses. So we were being headhunted to teach because we'd done a bit of teaching in the community. We were quite well known. People were saying, come and teach. We've got money from the European Union. We're setting up a women's course. Come and teach. So Roz and Annette, who sadly have died since, both of them, went off to teach, one at Bradford and one in Worksop, quite near here. And I decided that I didn't want to teach. And I went in the AA.
Yeah. And how did you find being in the AA versus the garage?
It was a bit like the same as on the tops course. My inspector wasn't quite sure he wanted a woman in his team. Yeah. But he was given one and he had to get on with it. And in actual fact, when I found being in the AA, it's a great organisation to work for, you know, good. They were good. I don't know if they still are. Very good with their staff, the equipment, the kit we got. Everything was good. The training we got, it was good. And he did say at the end, I didn't really want a woman, but it's been okay. You know. So the thing I found difficult is that having been in the garage and having it been a very sociable, good lot of crack with, you know, the other women that I work with and with customers and things, I found being in the AA quite lonely because you're driving around. And, you know, all the guys in the AA, they'd pop in and see their mates in a garage. I didn't have that kind of rapport particularly. Only very few garages did I have that rapport with. So I found it very lonely. And so after about 2.5 years of being in the AA, I was being headhunted by Sheffield College, and they were saying, do you want to come and teach?
And you'd given your time back to the AA for their help.
Yeah. And he did say to us, I really didn't want a woman, but you've been all right. Yeah. Big deal. You know, thank you. And the other thing is that I found that because I was a woman, I actually could engage with the customer quite a bit. So I used to get a lot of what they call commendations. Like they'd send in and say, I've had a great experience with you, and you know, and I was always kind of near the top of the charts for commendations. Right.
That's good. Yeah. But you found that actually you were able, because a lot of people that I know that now work in automotive as women and things like that, if they're doing customer facing stuff, they sometimes get that, oh, do you know what you're doing? Are you able to, especially at the side of the road sort of work?
I did, but on the whole, people that are broken down, all they want to do is get their car fixed and get on. They've got to pick their kids up, they've got to get to a meeting, whatever. And sometimes I was stumped, but on the whole, I kind of, you know, it's flat. It's a lot of flat batteries. It was then spark plugs failing. It was, you know, there were a lot of things you could do by the roadside. Petrol filters getting blocked up, all things that we don't have nowadays. And the diagnostics of it was, we were shown ways of diagnosing quickly by the roadside, and we had little bits of kit to do that, little bits of, another fuel pump to put on and see if it was pumping okay and all that. And so, and the training was very good in the AA as well. We had weekly, we had training courses that we went on. And also I had a van that was kitted out, but it also had some towing facilities on the back. So if it was a clutch or gearbox, it was like pick it up and tow it into the depot.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it would get picked up in a low loader.
So how did you find teaching? Like that full circle moment?
It was a full circle. I enjoyed the teaching, and initially I had a lot of women that wanted to do the course, and then after about 6-7 years, I was there for quite a long time. I was there for about 10-11 years altogether. The number of women wanting to do the course was less really, and I think that the college was changing quite a lot, so the publicity wasn't as good. It wasn't as robust, it wasn't as dynamic really, because I did my own publicity at the beginning, and I thought it was quite dynamic. I was also given time to go out and do talks and get women in. So then we started having guys coming in the course as well, but we always called it the women's. It was always known as the women's course, and the men were our guests.
That's nice. That's a real nice flip on the head in terms of numbers and things like that.
Yeah, it was a women's course, and the men were guests, and because most of them were kind of older unemployed men, they were fine.
Yeah.
They
happy to be there.
Happy to be there, happy to be treated with respect, etc. They've been out of work for some time. So, a good experience. Yeah.
So where did West start?
West started really as a result of Roz died in 2010, and she'd been involved in promoting women's non-traditional trades with European money, through courses and through setting up women's programs, and she'd been a dynamic force in that. And so she died in 2010 of cancer, and so afterwards people said, okay, we need to set up something called West as a memorial to her. And what we're going to do is we're going to start off by giving bursaries to young women who are training in trades.
Yeah.
So we've done that for the last 16 years. And we give bursaries every year to women that are training in trades or engineering.
So what's the qualifications
for
bursary? Yeah,
they have to have started, or they have to be going on to their second year of
so
training.
Have to have done that first year.
They have to have done that first year, shown us that, God, I can stick this. I might be the only woman in the course, I might be only one other person in the course that I can relate to, but I'm here and I'm staying. I've passed my end of year exams, tests, and we have to have a reference from their personal tutor saying that we think that they will, benefit from the bursary, and also go on and that they're good to go on to their second year. And it's amazing that I don't think we've turned down one person because she's had a bad reference. The women, if they get to college, do their first year and they go on to their second year, they're going for it.
Yeah.
Sadly, it's a similar story. It's getting the jobs after. Or getting an apprenticeship.
Yes.
It's really hard to get an apprenticeship, and after 2 years or 1 year even, they really need to. The system is set up for them having apprenticeships, and a lot of small firms find having an apprentice slows them down, and a lot of people really still don't want to have a woman as an apprentice. They don't believe that they can do the lifting, they can do the grafting and that sort of thing. But as I always say to people, in the garage trade, if I can't lift it, then a guy shouldn't be lifting it. You
No,
know? And
yeah.
we've got kit.
Do you know what? Someone
We've
else
got
said the
kit.
exact same thing to me who had spent years working as a woman in the trade. Yeah, if I can't lift it, then they shouldn't be lifting it.
And we've got kit to help us lift it. We've got gear lifters, we've got engine lifters, we've got all sorts of lifters, you know. And if I can't lift it, then I've got a mate that can help me.
Yeah. Two-person lift is perfectly acceptable
way of doing it. And also, you know, how many guys who are working in the trade end up with hernias and bad backs and all that sort of thing because they've been lifting all their lives, you know.
Absolutely. So, what was your favourite job to do when you were working hands-on in the garage?
My favourite job. Let me think. I enjoyed the welding, the gas welding, which we did then rather than MIG welding. I enjoyed the welding and, you know, putting new sills on and things like that. I enjoyed doing servicing. I enjoyed it all, really.
Yeah.
And one of the really interesting things is that I found is that every day I learned something new, because you'd put a part on, you'd get a wheel cylinder for, you know, Imp or a Morris Minor or something, and or perhaps not so much the Morris Minors, but Vauxhall, say, and you'd order it from the shop, from the people who deliver you the parts, and you'd say, I want a 1969 wheel cylinder for Vauxhall Viva, blah 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 blah, and they'd say okay, and they'd send it down, and the part had changed because the production line might have just changed it slightly during the course of production of that year. So you think, oh, this isn't fitting properly, this is just not right, and it was because, you know, there'd been a change. And so you're always learning something about a new part or a new thing or a new diagnostic every day, and that was interesting. And I'd go to bed with a diagnostic problem. I think, you know, I can't do that. Wake up in the morning and I solved it. Sleep somehow.
Quite a satisfying aspect of it. Absolutely. What was your least favourite jobs?
Least favourite jobs, clearing a car when it came in with snow in the winter. Probably that somebody dropped off the night before and then it snowed. No, my least favourite jobs would probably be, kind of didn't really like gearboxes, you know, and clutches, and they were a bit of but I did them.
Did what you had to do.
You do what you had to do, and there was always somebody there to help you lift it.
Was there any particular cars that were a complete pain to work on?
Not really. Citroen Dianes are interesting, and Volkswagens are interesting because they're engines at the back. So they kind of, the same rules didn't always apply. Citroen Diane, the engines were in a different place, and then there were the three-wheelers, the Reliance, that were fiberglass, which were like, whoa, you know, be careful here, we're welding. Because you don't want to start melting the outside of the car while you're fixing the chassis. We did have a few customers that had got three-wheelers.
And what's your personal car history?
My personal car history was we shared cars quite a lot in the when we started off, partly because we couldn't afford to have a car each, and then I had a Triumph Herald for probably 10 years, which was great. Lovely car, I really liked it. I thought it was very feminine and, you know, rather sleek.
Was it one that you had the roof that could come off?
Didn't have a soft top.
Didn't have a soft top, no.
Didn't have a soft top, but it was two-tone blue. It was very nice. And then since then, I had Skodas. I've had sort of old bangers, really. I currently have a Nissan Note.
How do you find that?
Nice. I like Nissans. I always think
What was your favourite car that came in that you got to?
Well, I think it has to be the Morgan, which was after Gwenda Stewart. So we didn't mend his car.
Did he turn up knowing that you'd named the garage after her?
Yes. I don't know where he'd picked that up from, probably from some sort of newspaper articles. I don't know.
Because there was quite a lot of press about the whole garage and stuff.
There was, because we were quite unique. but also we used the press. You know.
Yeah.
We kind of thought, come on, let's get a story here, because it helped business.
Yeah. And in terms of like the musical that got written about what was going on,
yeah, sure.
how close is all of that to what you were experiencing?
Well, there are a few things that I didn't agree with in the musical. One is that Dipstick, the apprentice, was going to go off and design some tools that were good for women.
Yeah.
And I thought, that's rubbish. All the tools that we use you could use as a woman, and we didn't need specialist tools. We didn't need smaller spanners or smaller this or smaller that. You know, like, come on.
In fact, a smaller spanner is often a hindrance
exactly.
if you want in more leverage.
And there
or
are
whatever.
smaller spanners. You know, 10 mil is a really small spanner.
Yeah.
So, but she was going off to design some equipment that was going to be more suitable for women. I thought, that's not right. That's not a good advert for us. And then the other thing is, I thought most of it was true, but it was an amalgamation, because when they came and they said we want to do a musical, I said, look, what was going on in the 80s was a lot of women doing a lot of unusual things and a lot of different things. Plumbers, you know, all sorts of people were doing different things. And what's important is that they tell their story through Gwenda's, and that Gwenda's is just a backdrop. Yeah. Really. And so, you know, there was Women's Aid going on, there was rape crisis going on, there was women coming out as lesbians, it was just loads of stuff going on, and that needed to be in Gwenda's. Yeah. And so what they did is they ran some small workshops to get everybody to come in and tell their story. Then they did the script. Yeah, absolutely. Was there a character in it that you felt was closely related to your experience? Well, I kind of couldn't. I was kind of... The first time I saw it, it was a red experience. It wasn't the musical, it was a red... Is that where they had the little toy car in it? Yeah, and they had this, they were holding the scripts. Yeah, I've seen the photos and stuff from that. Yeah, that... I didn't... Because it was the first thing I had, I kind of couldn't hear it, you know. It's just like, oh my God, this is too much. And also, it was very personal because Roz and Annette had both died. Annette died in 2016. And so, you know, they were my buddies. I were at both of their deaths, you know. Yeah. So it was a very personal experience. So I kind of, oh God, I can't hear this. And then when I saw it as a musical, people say to me that I was like Carol. I don't know. Holding it all. There's a song which says I'm holding it all together. Yeah, absolutely. Because Annette was kind of living in Bradford, and Roz was kind of all over the place because she was living in a house where a woman who was a lesbian was being threatened with custody. So she was having to scout off at 3 o'clock in the afternoon to often pick Nathaniel up from school, and so I kind of did sometimes feel I was holding it all together, and so I think that. People just said to me, "Oh, you were a Carol," but I was like this about it. That's interesting to hear. Yeah. What would you say to someone who was considering now as a woman going into the motor trade? Yeah. I'd say cars have changed hugely. Yeah. So. Get your computer skills up together. Yeah, really, big change in that regard. Because a lot of change in that regard. A lot of diagnostics is done through computers now, and I would say find a mentor, whether it's a man or a woman. Find somebody that believes in you, because you'll need that. But you'll need somebody to encourage you and keep you focused on. If you're going to college to do City and Guilds, then find somebody in the college, whether it's a student councillor or somebody who believes in you. And be proud of yourself. Yeah. And if people want to find out more about West, sure. Where can they find that? Go to our website, which is westskills.org.uk. And on that you'll see the work that we do in schools. You'll see some videos that we've done of women doing unusual jobs. There isn't a mechanic on there. There's an aircraft mechanic. Yeah. There, on that and in those videos. And we've got a message board on it. Contact us through the message board. Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you very much for your time, and thank you for sharing your stories from Gwenda's Garage. Thank you.
So that was an amazing chat with Roz. We've had a lovely afternoon here talking about our backgrounds and our experiences with all sorts of cars, both on the podcast and off. So I'm really grateful to Roz for her time, and also for dropping off lots of really fascinating bits and pieces for us to make use of at our stand with the Women Drivers Social Club in a couple of weeks' time. This Sunday is obviously International Women's Day, and it seemed a really appropriate podcast to be putting out just before that, and hopefully another way to inspire people to realise just how capable women are within automotive. If you've enjoyed this podcast, I'd love to hear about some of your automotive heroes, or perhaps your experiences of getting to learn about working on a car for the first time. And in the meantime, thank you ever so much for listening. Thank you to Roz for her time. Drive safely and happy motoring.